Hey, this is Jamey from Stonemaier Games, and today I'm going to talk about my favorite mechanism in a hot off the press new game, Champions of Midgard. I'm joking a little bit here because Champions of Midgard has been out for far too long for me to not have played it, especially given how much I love a game called Lords of Waterdeep. That game is often compared to Champions of Midgard in terms of the worker placement, the quests that you're going on, things like that. But I finally got to play it, and I really had fun with it. I really did enjoy my first play of Champions of Midgard. There are a few things that I wanted to mention about because there's a lot of clever design decisions in here. And I'll talk a little bit about the expansion. I did play with the Valhalla expansion, but I'll talk about that in a separate video. So I'll jump to my number one favorite mechanism in Champions of Midgard. It's I would say it's a simple mechanism, but I think it's a really nice one to have in a game, a worker placement game in particular, with rounds. And that is, it features resource accumulation. That is, if no player has selected a specific action on the board on any given round, at the end of that round, you add to the number of things on that location. For example, I have some beautiful dice here from the game, a few from the expansion, but these red dice. There's an action where you can pick up some of these red dice, and I believe it starts with just one red die. But if no one takes that action, you add another red die to that location. So the next player to choose that action gets 2 red dice. Sometimes it might even get up to 3. In our game, there were a few times we're playing a 2-player game where that accumulation got up to 3. It happens with dice in this game, and there's also an action spot that accumulates, I believe it's food. It's either food or wood, one of the other resources that accumulates from round to round. But the dice in particular feel really good because the dice look great. I love custom dice, and just to see them accumulate over the course of the round, they become more and more appealing, or the course of the game, it becomes more and more appealing if no one has taken those actions. It could feel really good if you get up to 3. You're getting 3 dice with one action that was previously only valued at 1 die. I love resource accumulation. I think that works really well in this game. One other really clever thing I think the game did, or does, and I would show you the board, but it's a giant board. It would be a little tough to hold up here. But there are 2 types of action spaces in the game. There are, and really it's 3, but 2 are very similar in that when you place on those action spaces, you gain the benefit right away. However, there are also some action spaces that only trigger at the end of the round. Those are where you are going to fight a monster typically. And I think it's really clever that the designer delineated between those 2 spaces. In general, in worker placement games, I like when you place a worker down and you gain that action right away, rather than having a delay. I think it contributes to the flow of the game. You're doing something, you're getting a benefit. But the battles, sometimes they don't take too long. They're very fast battles, but they are a little bit more involved than placing a worker. And the battles often require things that you've accumulated over the course of the round, things that you've gathered, things that you've gained, some of these dice. That might be really important. And so giving players that time to choose which actions they want and the time to gather the things they need to optimize and maximize those kind of payoff actions makes each round feel a little bit more climactic as a result. So I really like the delineation between those 2 different types of worker placement spaces on the board. There's also a neat mechanism. Again, it's a little hard to show without the board, but one of the ways that you can go fight monsters is to go on a seafaring adventure. And so you'll load up a boat with some supplies, some dice representing kind of the different warriors that are going out there, and you send them out on a journey towards a specific monster. And at the end of the round, you activate it. You first reveal kind of an ocean encounter card that you encounter along the way. Sometimes that might just be calm seas. Sometimes it might be a little mini monster that you have to fight before you get to the real monster. Sometimes that might be a weather event, things like that. Makes it feel really thematic. And cleverly, again, the designer made the monsters that you eventually fight worth a lot more than the other monsters that don't have that added uncertainty of risk along that journey. So thematically, I thought that worked really, really well. And I like that there was not just, there was an extrinsic payoff there, that there were victory points at the end of it, more victory points than if you hadn't taken that risk to head out to sea. I really like that as well. So yeah, those I would say are my top 3 favorite mechanisms of Champions of Midgard. A few other things, again, that I'll save for an expansion video. But yeah, I really enjoyed those elements of the game. And I look forward to hearing your favorite elements of the game in the comments below. Let me know your favorite mechanism in Champions of Midgard or any other games that have resource accumulation, different types of action spaces, and certain risky action spaces that really feel like they're worth the payoff when you make it work. Thanks.